Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're back down here. It's after court at the Las Vegas Federal Courthouse, and we got some quite a bit of news to share with you this evening about witnesses that the defense team called. But first off, we're going to tell you a little bit about Josh Martinez and a Christopher Lamb. I don't think he's related to me. I haven't actually got to sit down and meet this gentleman, but both of them got either detained and arrested down here today. For being up here in this general area where we're at right now. I know Skipper has the full details on it because I was up in court, but Skipper was down here. Jonathan Skipper, he witnessed the whole thing, and he also got a lot of this, all of this on video, as several of the others did. But they detained Joshua Martinez, handcuffed him, and took him away in the Metro PD, I understand, and this other Mr. Lamb. Here, come over here, Skipper. You can kind of explain what's going on.
Josh Martinez showed up, as you saw my other update, that he actually got a state ID. I made a joke that he revoked his sovereign citizenship. But so he got a state ID because he wanted to start going into the trial. And when he goes in, they rejected him, says that he's trespassing. And before we know it, one of the courtroom marshal guys was waved down the Metro officer, and they started handcuffing Josh, for trespassing. When Josh says, "Well, I wasn't trespassing because I wasn't told I was." And then this Christopher Lamb guy that just randomly showed up today. It comes up, it's talking to us, says, "Oh, I support the Bundys," but the whole time he's cussing up a storm, cussing at people, that's works here, he's yelling things at the DHS guys, yelling things at Metro pulls up, drives by, and then we got to move back.
They're trying to say you got to get down off.
Come on, camera, Doug. Come here.
Well, we've been told.
Well,
I'm going to keep talking.
We've been told before.
Let's keep talking until they actually tell us.
Okay.
So, they arrested Christopher Lamb, because we actually had a guy that was here earlier, actually saw his ID. He showed the ID. They handcuffed Josh, took him away, wrote him a misdemeanor warning for trespassing, but they let him go. He came back, gave us an update before he had to go pick up his son. So this Christopher Lamb guy, no one knows him. It's the first time he showed up, and we've never seen him before. He's never hung out with us before. He said that he just got out of jail, but he didn't say if it was today or if it was a few days ago or what. So that's all we know about the Christopher Lamb guy. Metro took his property because I told Metro, I was like, I don't know the guy. I don't want to be responsible for his property. But Josh, just got a warning. Even though he complied, he got a state ID, he's still not allowed inside.
Oh, just a moment ago, we're still trying to figure out what's going on, but Homeland Security just approached some of us from the back side of the camera here, told us that we're not media, that we can't be up here. So we don't know the full details yet. They're on the radios behind us, so we might have to evacuate this area shortly under threat.
And we've actually had permission.
And we've had permission.
We've had
permission several times, as several of us know, but they're trying to intimidate us again today and tell us that we cannot do what we're doing here.
And you can see
Real
him
quick,
over there.
one more thing. Angie Bundy showed up today, and she comes in and she goes in the courthouse, and they tell her that she can't go in. And so first time she's ever been rejected for it. So they're finding all kinds of reasons, just to hinder us, to show our support, to go inside, to be out here. It's a different story every single time, even though every 2 weeks we get, these new permissions again. We get everything established again, but every 2 weeks things get changed over because there's new people here that don't know what's been going on. And so it's a circus, it's a dog and pony show.
But what you can see here is just a peaceful assembly and updating
independent
media, citizen journalists, and it's all been extremely
He says
valuable.
you may be media, but you're not media.
Yes.
Is what he told me.
So
All
we'll
right.
try to continue with our update on court here. I know Andrea takes very good
Stay
notes
tuned.
here, and also Sergeant Moe's been taking great notes about the witnesses that we had. So go ahead and let's give them some updates on those.
Okay, so right after lunch we had Ranger Carpenter come in. He is a dog handler. He had body cam footage. They brought him in to enter one of his body cams that was a meeting between him and Pete Santilli. They were told by Stephen Myrie, yesterday, that was his body cam. On the 11th between Santilli and Dan Love. That's the whole reason they brought him in. When he was on the stand today, he said no, that was not his body cam, and we were not able to get that footage in. He actually was bad for us. They started to play some of his body cam. Then they, when the government went to cross him, they wanted the rule of completion played and the entire body cam played, which we have argued over and over again. We have argued it for the longbows. We have argued it for the FBI interrogation videos. We have argued it for almost everything that they brought in, and they said, no, the rule of completion does not work here. You're not going to get it. Here in the courtroom, for the first time, she let them use the rule of completion, let him get on in cross-examination, in the government's cross-examination of this witness, and then he proceeded to continue their case with their narrative. I'm not sure if that was set up by Myrie himself, saying that that was his body cam and maybe it wasn't his body cam, or if he perjured himself in court today by saying that no, it was not his body cam between him and Dan Love. Either way, I'd love to see it looked into more.
Also, and Michael Carpenter, just for some people who are joining and getting to know the story, he's a law enforcement officer for the BLM with canine management specifically. And they did show the videos with the exhibits of the BLM officers behind the vehicles, standing at the ready. And I have to tell you, seeing it again for myself back there in full, as a prior soldier, this is definitely what it looks like to gear up for war.
Well, they're saying that because we're more than 2 or 3 people, and the fact that some of the people here were down here protesting and stuff, they're considering us protesters.
Well, we're not protesting.
It doesn't matter the fact that we've worked for 3 months out here and asked and got permission every time to do this. We've moved wherever they wanted to or anything like that. There's a new rule today. So,
okay.
We are subjecting ourselves to arrest if we don't move.
Thank you. Okay, so, well, in the exhibit, not only did I notice that that's what it reminds me of when I'm preparing and gearing up for war, literally my battle rattle, my vest, my helmet, my Kevlar, my weapon at the ready. And if not in a position, looking for my targets, identifying my targets, you cannot shoot. And they did say that, and it's stated throughout many government branches and military branches that we're not going to pull that trigger unless we have an identifiable target. However, their targets were mostly, they were specifying in court that they're looking for the lethal target, meaning they are armed or they are already shooting and taking fire from that individual. However, in that midst, in that crowd, you have women and children, and you have men also unarmed. They already were making the mistake in identifying and targeting individuals with cameras, as we know, and laughing and joking in that video. So, I mean, they go on to, the prosecution goes on to say that in the jokes in the video, they were joking simply about being there at a time when it was on the radio, it was overheard on the radio. It's hard to concentrate, sorry, because we may be interfered with here soon.
They say Metro is coming.
Yeah, we've got Metro on our way.
Sounds like it's an
imminent threat?
Imminent threat for sure. We don't know the detail of what's all going on, but they're telling us in the background that Metro is coming, that we're supposed to move. Nobody's actually told me nothing. I'm just kind of hearing from the background here what's going
We got it
on.
on video that no one's told us to move.
So do we want to continue?
I haven't been told to move.
I haven't been told to move
I've
either.
been hearing rumors is all, but
So
I
then
haven't
we
had
bring
any
on
official contact.
Defense Calls Michelle Arnett. She traveled to Bunkerville on the 12th with 7 or 8 different people in different cars, and then talks about she was at the stage. She talks about what she heard the sheriff say. She heard the sheriff say that the BLM were ceasing operations and that they were leaving. She talks about how when they went down into the wash that they expected that they were just going to watch the cows come home, and that was not what they got when they got there. She said at one moment she saw snipers up on the plateau, and that made her fear for her life, and that she had looked at the barrier because she was going to hide behind it if she needed to. She talks about how everyone was joyful and happy after the sheriff spoke, and that they waited for an hour and a half, and then the cowboys came up on the hill, and how it was an awe-inspiring moment for her, and that there was joy all around when they went down to watch the cows come home.
as far as waiting for the cows to go home, she also had a nice comment out there when they were talking about crowd control for the park. She asked the question, actually posed the question to the prosecution, are our parks that crowded? So that they need militarized control is what she's referring to. I thought that was a great statement. She also made a great statement about, they talked about camouflage. They kept posing the question, are these men wearing camouflage? Men that were near the stage when Cliven was and Ammon were giving their speech, and she said, what does that matter? I have camouflage pajamas. She was fantastic. She owned the witness stand with comfort and ease, sense of humor as well, a little bit of sass, but with honest and truth and integrity. Very principled is what I wanted to add to that. It was amazing.
She also said that when she got there,
around back.
when she got there, it looked like a scene off of the TV that the BLM or the people on the other side looked like they were coming right out of Afghanistan. At that moment, that she's being showed pictures, and then did you see this picture? And then they show her like a badge on this one person, and they enlarge it. Do you see this badge? And she's like, well, I see it on there, but I couldn't have seen it from across the two bridges.
And they did this to Shannon as well too when he was a witness. Same question.
And she also said it seemed like overkill to me for them to be having all of this just for rounding up cattle.
Yep, and I'd say the big difference of everything too that was discussed when they were talking about everybody with firearms, one of the big differences that I didn't see mentioned in court yet, I'd like to see someone point out on the defense side, is that firearms with the BLM were being lifted and pointed at the ready or pointed, looking for their targets. And the citizens had their weapons if they had a weapon, some did. But when they did, they were either holstered or down pointing at the ground, not even at the ready. At the ready is lifting it slightly, so.
She also made a comment, it seemed like cowboys and Indians, except for there wasn't any Indians.
There wasn't any.
Then they gave her a barrage of all these different people. Do you see this person with a firearm? She said, I see that, a firearm. I didn't see that person. Do you see what I circled here? She said, I can't even see that's a gun. I see the guy has a dog. I see he has a backpack, but it's entirely blurry to me. This is all stuff we've all been saying since the very beginning. When we're seeing the pictures. We're like, I guess you could possibly make something out, but it is not clear.
Both witnesses today testified the same thing. They could not see or depict these references prosecution was making in these videos and pictures. They couldn't see. It was blurry.
Then she was asked something about these guys with their guns, and she said, don't we still have our Second Amendment right? She was then talked to by the judge in a not fabulous manner, which I thought was a little not great, and told that she was only to respond to the questions. Then it was brought up that she had dropped off supplies for the supporters after the fact. She did say that she did not know the Bundys going down into this, but then afterwards she became friends with them and got to know the family. They were using the fact that she dropped off supplies for the supporters, trying to say the supporters were militants. She dropped supplies off for the militia, when she said no, she dropped supplies off for the supporters. Then they bring in a video of her because she's wearing a Don't Tread on Me shirt. And for some reason that Don't Tread on Me shirt is supposed to make her irrelevant. Well, I don't understand this. And then she goes in to say, well, you know, the Don't Tread on Me, and goes into explaining what that stands for, and that it was used by our military and it was used by our government as and the meaning behind it. And so I don't know, that seemed to go over well. That's pretty much all.
That's all I've got too.
One of the biggest things I noticed that when the lawyers, the defense team, was trying to argue for different evidence to come in through these witnesses, that the judge made a mention today that the same rule does not apply for the defendant witnesses that it does to the government witnesses. And that rule, if I remember right, was Rule 104. I don't really remember the exact number, but she made a statement today. She told Greg Burleson's attorney, Mr. Jackson, that the same rule does not apply to the defendant witnesses the same as it does to the government witnesses. That the government's allowed to bring in more evidence to prove their case, and the defendants are not. They have a higher standard of proof to do that. So today, to sum it up, we pretty much only got 3 witnesses finished today. We hope to try to get at least 3 more witnesses tomorrow before the day's out. We do not start until 11 o'clock. We know that we have Eric Parker for sure going to testify tomorrow, and we have 2 other witnesses.
I don't know if I see the crowd there. Can you see that?
Dwight and Stanton Leaves. Leaves.
That's it.
They try to get Dan Love in here today.
So there's 2 ranchers from Utah, a father and son. They are supposed to be back here again tomorrow, and so we hope they make it, and then we get to hear their story too, and we maybe can sum up our witnesses tomorrow and go into closing arguments as soon as Monday morning here. So I guess that's about all we have for
I got
today.
one other thing. So at the end of the day, after they had all this, they brought in, or after they let the jury go out, they argued that they want to re-argue the compel to have Dan Love come in and take the stand. And they requested him to get the presence because they called Carpenter just for the fact of getting that video in, the meeting between Love and Santilli, where they talk about Margaret Houston, and he says that his officer did nothing wrong. He also said that he has no problem with the Second Amendment and people can open carry on federal lands. He said this video is extremely important to the defense because here the government is making it so no, it is not okay to open carry on federal land. And the judge even interjects at this moment, and she says there's a difference between open carrying and brandishing. So they're saying anyone who had their hands on their weapons was brandishing their weapon, even if it was on a sling and they were just holding it to their body as they were going around. So, you know, here we're even getting into more of a mix. I believe it was the only reason they brought Carpenter on the stand. That backfired in their face extremely, and it was almost like it was set up by Myrie, and the judge is just going to allow, they're not going to allow Dan Love to come in yet again, even though he is crucial to our defense. They're saying that we'll let you put that video in, we'll give you the authenticity, but you've got to come up with the, what was it, the foundation possibly? And so that's where we left the relevance and foundation, and so that's where we're going with.
We will bring up one more thing about a juror. Juror number 9, finally the defense team brought it up today, and we've been noticing juror number 9 all along. She looks like she's asleep half the time. She's moving around in her chair. She never sits still. Her head's over to the side. And the day the defense team argued that this juror fell asleep today, and the prosecution stood up and said, no, she didn't fall asleep. They could see a direct line of her, and they didn't feel like she was asleep at all. So they called this juror in at the last moment after the jurors left by herself, and they questioned this juror if she fell asleep. And she answered softly a few, no, she didn't fall asleep. She was awake the whole time, and she understood everything. So they're going to continue keeping this juror, but we're going to be monitoring this juror to see if she does fall asleep anymore or what the situation there is. Yes, that's right. She fell asleep through part of the BLM type testimony. So we will, I guess, close for the night. We will be back at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I don't know when we'll do an update tomorrow. It depends on our break. But we get no lunch tomorrow. We're supposed to eat lunch before we go to court, and we're going to be in there till closing about 4:30 or 5. So we might do an update before we go into court if we have something important. Other than that, it'll be sometime towards the end of the day. So we might only have one live stream tomorrow. Just want to let everybody know that, because through the lunch hour, we will be in court. Thanks again for joining us down here and listening to our updates, and we can use more boots on the ground tomorrow down here for people observing and seeing what's going on. We might go live again shortly if we get some more excitement. So we're fixing to head off this
Who's going to get arrested first?
this free speech zone area.
Real quick, the decisions being made here are literally happening right over the Second Amendment.
They definitely are. Your Second Amendment rights and your First Amendment rights are at stake here. We are in trial for those rights.
They went fishing.
If you think they're important, if you think the Constitution is important, you need to be down here trying to protect those rights and make sure that justice is served properly.
There you go.
So thank you again, and God bless everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
All right. Later.